We're back, everybody, at the Dreamhack Dota 2 Invitational. We're going to be bringing you guys Game 2 between NoTidehunter, a.k.a. Alliance, versus Fnatic here in just a second. But we do have some things we want to talk about before we start the next game. I think we kind of rehashed all the information we have to about what actually happened in Game 1, but we have Bruno, of course, with some team statistics and otherwise just awesome stuff.
Yep. We're going to talk about this new team, Alliance, which is, of course, not really a new team. So, I mean, but it's the talk of the day. Everyone wants to know what they are about. And, yeah, of course, the statistics are those from NoTidehunter, which were the same players. But let's see where they are right now. Yeah, look at that. Like, best heroes on the last 3 months. There are a couple heroes with which they don't never lose. Nice Soccer, Dragon Knight. Hopefully they don't go for the Airman build with the Dragon Knight. I think Loda decides to actually max the Dragon Breath. And the Puck. They played none of these heroes today, so they're not winning. And they're really good against Clockwork 3-0, Silencer 3-0, and Brewmaster 7-0. Again, it's not fighting against these ones. Something we've talked about in the past is how they struggled a lot playing against Wisp. So you see Wisp and CK as one of the worst heroes to play against. And it's really funny, but I have to say this. It's when you see Team Alliance and you see that the worst hero is Faceless Void, what does it make you think of?
Lotus Spheres.
Lotus Spheres. Yeah.
It's
kind of a special kind of Chronosphere.
It's an inside joke in the house, at least. I don't know if it's anywhere else.
I think pretty much everyone knows what the Lotus Spheres are about. But anyways, can be just a bad streak, a bad 3-month streak. And if Alliance picks Faceless Void now, I'd be really, really happy to see if we get to see good ones. So that's it for now. That's pretty short, but we are like, I think the game is starting or started already, so I'm giving it to you, Andy, so you can just jump into the game.
Yeah, actually the bans and picks have already started, so we're going to get a chance to watch Game 2, hopefully completely unobstructed. So, now for Game number 1, we talked about the game plan of Alliance and how it felt a little bit one-sided. Like they had basically one thing they were good at. They could take isolated fights, and they could buy a lot of time for the Gyrocopter to get the farm that he needed to be that devastating late game carry that we always talk about. But it just never really got to that point. Fnatic's draft was much more mid-game based. They had the Chen heal, they had the Mech, they had the Alchemist going pure damage items that also were able to add to the push quite nicely. And Alliance kind of just got overpowered whenever they didn't have a perfect fight. So for them, do you figure they're going to go for maybe more stability this time? Or do you think that S4 maybe feels he can have a better game, perhaps, if they get a chance to take that Batrider again?
Well, usually kind of the two styles they play is either the full-on split push with Admiral Bulldog on Nature's Prophet, but if they can get their hands on the Lone Druid, which is actually banned out now, so we're not going to see that, but if they can get the hands of that, they usually try and go for just full-on 5 versus 5 or just go for a pushing lineup instead, because they really like to just try and push down towers and just go into the enemy's base at 10 minutes or whatever, because that's just how they like to play it, with a Dragon Knight maybe as the pushing carry, just going for getting a fast level 6 and then going for a push together with the Shen. But both the Shen and the Lone Druid is being banned out at this point, so they might just go for more of a team fighting lineup instead this game.
It's interesting that Fnatic actually decided to ban both of those heroes. Like, yeah, of course, Ake plays Chen very well, and you're playing against NoTidehunter, who are known for Admiral Bulldog's Lone Druid, but these are heroes that Fnatic are completely comfortable with as well. So maybe they're just going to adopt a different game plan. They have a chance to first pick a Nyx here, and they are going to go with it. That's one hero who you typically don't pass up. Sometimes people are saying that Batrider, maybe you can skip him for a first pick, take something else, and then you have like another plan afterwards. But a Nyx, typically when he's available as a first pick, people always take him.
Yeah, most of the times. He's just such a powerful hero. You can run him in a support or in a mid role. Kind of like the same as a Rubik, though the Nyx has a lot more impact, unless the Rubik can seal some big spells. But just the Spike Carapace as well as the Vendetta, forcing supports on the other team to buy sentries and dust early on, maybe even going for an early gem, just to be able to counter the Nyx itself. There's just so much gold invested to countering one hero, and then they get 4 other heroes that are going to be super strong for them. But I can still see the reasoning behind them banning out the Shen as well as the Lone Druid, because if they would have banned something else, say a Mag and Mag Phantom Lesser, just because NoTidehunter most likely would have went for the Lone Druid Shen as the second picks, because they have the first pick, so they can only get one of the heroes, and the heroes they're going to leave in, NoTidehunter is, or Alliance of course, is going to try and get.
Well, Alliance right now, they are going to pick up the Meg, so S4 is going to have the chance to get his hands on that. And then, of course, we're going to have the Keeper of the Light taken as well. So in terms of the laning phase, when you see something like a Keeper of the Light, you know that you're probably going to be playing against a defensive lane, unless you can get your hands on something perhaps like a Lifestealer, because that's one hero who you typically can pick up, and even if the Keeper of the Light's not great in aggressive tri-lanes, you know you can land that Illuminate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very good to have, but at this point they can just go for a Phantom Lancer if they want to. I don't know if you pointed it out because I'm getting distracted, but anyways, like Fnatic can of course go for Phantom Lancer if they want to, but just that combo with the Keeper of the Light Phantom Lancer isn't really too bad for Alliance to pick up at this point. And then of course you got the Empower for whatever carry they actually go for. Doesn't really matter. They can go for whatever carry they want, and they're still going to have the Empower, which is going to be so good for them, just getting the extra damage out. So we'll see what Fnatic wants to go for at this point. If they want to try and get another mid-hero straight away, maybe go for a carry and another support. Maybe just try and keep their lanes just as... try and not show their lanes too much, or just show like, this is going to be our mid-hero, and then you're going to try and guess the rest pretty much.
Well, it's funny to me because people have kind of been ignoring Phantom Lancer for the most part, at least in terms of the first three nowadays. People typically let it go to the second ban phase. If they notice, say, Alliance or maybe Fnatic haven't picked their hard carry yet, then you start thinking about banning it out. But there's no real precedent to say, oh, we just absolutely can't deal with a Phantom Lancer anymore, because people are just learning to play against those heroes. During the stats, actually, before even the first game started, we had a chance to see some heroes like Darkseer losing all the time, Batrider losing quite often in our tournament as well. It's just people are adapting very nicely. They understand the strengths and the weaknesses of the heroes. So now we're going to see if Alliance want to go for that Phantom Lancer. Of course, Nature's Prophet picked up here by Fnatic. They are going to go with it, so the fun has basically ceased for this game, as Phantom Lancer and Keeper of the Light are going to be seeing lane together here in game number 2.
Yep, but I really like the decision that Fnatic went for to start off with, going for the puck as well as the Nature's Prophet, because now they got a really, really good counter-initiate, as well as if they run the puck in the long lane, if they want to run that, and then run the Nature's Prophet just in the jungle, we're most likely going to see him in the offlane, of course, and then the puck mid and Nyx support. But if they want to run the Nyx mid instead and then the puck in the long lane, you can have the Nyx run around with the Vendetta trying to set up kills for the Nature's Prophet to TP into. So they got some very good split push as well as pick-off power at this point, which is going to be really good for them, because Phantom Lancer needs some farm to be able to get into the game. And if you can lock him down the first 20 minutes, it's going to be very tough for him, especially if you get a good hard carry in your last two picks.
Now, people often forget how very easy it is to actually keep a Phantom Lancer down in terms of pure aggression. You can see that Alliance realized that, though. They're going to ban out the Gyrocopter. They're going to ban out the Luna, two heroes that, more often than not, you see at least apply some early to mid-game pressure. Luna probably a bit more so than the Gyrocopter, but Gyrocopter late game still pretty tough to deal with. That flat cannon has an unlimited amount of targets that it can hit, so you can still take down the illusions relatively easy. So now Fnatic, they have one more ban, and so do Alliance, but for Fnatic, do you think maybe another mid-game style of hero, like maybe a Lifestealer? They have a puck and a Nature's Prophet who can utilize very, very nicely with him, and it still gives you a hero who, while during the late game, obviously is not going to compete with a Phantom Lancer, but he might give you the edge you need. Oh, never mind. Not even going to get to see it, because they banned it out. Thanks, Alliance. I was just like, I was feeling like, yeah, this is a good point, and then suddenly...
Yeah, Lifestealer would have been great in that lineup, but we're going to see what they want to try and go for now, as well as what they want to get as another support, of course, because, like I said, you can, of course, run the Nyx mid, but then you're going to have to pick two supports now, or one support and a hard carry if you're going to run the Prophet in the jungle, but we'll most likely see the Prophet in the long lane, so looking for another support as well as a hard carry. So at this point, I don't really know what they want to try and go for as a hard carry, but like you said, most likely something where you can fight in the mid game, and they're going to get a Lina, so a good follow-up stun after the Nyx stun. Maybe we'll get to see a CK if they want to try and go for something like that, just because it combos quite well with Alina. I don't know how we will actually fare against Alliance lineup at this point, but they got quite a few heroes still open in the pool. Might go for something out of Alliance book and go for Doom, go for something crazy, but probably not.
Doom, I mean, it does kind of work, but at the same time, if you don't manage to doom the target, you want to focus before he's able to do anything. Like, say, S4 on the Magnus, sometimes you want to doom him to stop the RP. If the spells are already used, then Doom doesn't really have quite the same effect, so it's a very difficult hero to utilize properly. And Fnatic, they have supports who can move around the map, which I feel is very nice. They also have a Nature's Prophet who can pressure quite nicely. So you're talking about a potential for maybe a 3-man gank coming your way just out of the blue if you're not paying attention to where Fnatic supports are on the map. Alliance, they're going to go ahead and pick up a Rubik, which Rubik is a defensive hero, obviously very, very good. Telekinesis buys you some time, but I'm not really sure that Fnatic want to try to lane this aggressively anyway. Seeing as how Luna, Gyrocopter, Lifestealer all banned out, 3 heroes who are typically seen aggressively, if any carries, of course. They can't get any of them, so do they go Void here? I mean, what options do they have?
Yeah, that's the question. What do they actually want to get? They can, of course, go for an Alchemist again, but it's still, like, they don't really have too much that can lock them down. They got the Dream Call, of course, as well as the Nyx down with the follow-up, but we're going to see a Tiny, which is actually very nice for them with the pushing potential, and when he gets his Aghanims, those Phantom Master illusions are not going to stay alive until he gets a Butterfly as well as a Heart, or at least a Heart just to get them tankier. But at this point, I'm wondering what Alliance actually wants to get for Bulldog, because they're going to try and look for a Bulldog here right now. Of course, he can play the Mag in the long lane, but we almost always see S4. And I'm kind of leaning towards maybe a Bounty just because that's one of the heroes that he plays. But
yeah,
I still don't really see how that would actually fit into their lineup at this point. It could be good to kite the Tiny, but still, like, is it really going to be worth it picking up a Bounty Hunter?
It could actually work, I think, just because... they're going to go the offlane Juggernaut choice. Scriff is quite pleased with that choice. His hands have just been thrust up into the air in victory. But offlane Juggernaut works pretty well, actually, because even if you don't get a whole lot of levels, even 1 point into Healing Ward can be the make or break between being able to continue a push, maybe even defend one of your own towers, because I do feel as though Fnatic, they're going to want to be the aggressors here. They have a Nyx, they have a Lina, they have a Puck, 3 amazing initiation heroes, especially the Puck and Hani. If he's able to get his hands on something like a Blink Dagger, he can be very disruptive as well. So the time is definitely on the side of Alliance. The later the game goes, the harder it's going to be for Fnatic to end up sealing this, but they do have an insanely strong mid-game lineup. Just look at the burst damage that Fnatic has between their heroes. The only one who can't really nuke is going to be the Prophet.
Yeah, and like you said, the burst damage, Tiny as well with his combo is going to be huge. And as soon as he gets his Blink Dagger up, or his Aghanims, I mean, not his Blink Dagger, he's going to do so much damage, and S4 is actually going to be the one picking up the Juggernaut, so we might see a mid Juggernaut instead. It's Admiral Bulldog.
No, please no.
Well, a mid Juggernaut against potentially... Well, actually, I need to see who's actually playing it first.
Puck, I believe, since No-Tail's picked up the Puck, so...
Yeah, so it could be No-Tail mid. And then versus Juggernaut, I mean, if he gets pooled regen, if he gets to start with something like a Stout, or not a Stout, a full Poor Man's, Puck's auto-attack damage did get buffed, but it's still pretty tough to harass a Juggernaut out of lane. Once you get level 2 and 3, you can drop a Healing Ward. You're able to sustain quite easily. Once you get your bottle, you pretty much never have to leave. And the nice thing about Juggernaut is that even though he is technically classified as a carry, Blade Fury in the mid-game, Healing Ward, Omni Slash, all still very good without the need of items.
Yeah, and you can go for more of a, not really semi-support, but you can go for kind of an aura build if you want to. Just go for a Face Vlad's Drums, something like that, just being very good in the mid-game, because you're still going to have the damage there, like you said, with the Blade Fury, as well as the Omni Slash. The damage is for sure going to be there. And then you get the extra movement speed, maybe picking up a Yasha for even more movement speed. And, of course, just being able to move around, getting some good pickoffs with the Omni Slash is going to be huge for them. So the Juggernaut is for sure not a bad pick. And then, of course, they can go for a pretty fast Roche if they want to.
The thing that scares me is, say the game goes to the 45, 50 minute mark, how are you ever going to stop them from pushing? Like with a Phantom Lancer who potentially could have a heart at that time, Butterfly, Diffusal Manta, whatever, how do you actually win those fights? I mean, we talk often about how a team is going to have a late game advantage, but I feel as though Alliance's team is just so much better during the late game phases. And I mean, that's assuming Fnatic don't have a fantastic early game, which by all intents and purposes they should, because they have a better early game composition. But all the talk right now, just kind of waiting for Admiral Bulldog to return. The nice thing, though, about him crashing now is that we don't have to go through the whole hassle of deciding if we want to reload the game or not. Now we can just say, okay, just get your stand in. We'll remake the game. It'll be fine. So, actually, Bruno, how long are we going to wait?
This time we're going to actually be... Wait a minute, I have another announcement. Yes, exactly what I said. They will have 10 minutes just starting now.
Okay.
And if they can't, in 10 minutes we have to start a new game with a stand-in.
Well,
And Bulldog just can't come in. If he comes back, just like tough luck.
yeah. Well, I think this is going to be a more agreeable situation for either team because nothing has really happened yet. And you can see the picks and stuff, but they haven't even had a chance to spot the lanes. So there's no room for confusion or anything like that. Pretty much everything's going to be fine. Hopefully he comes back, though. Would like to see Alliance playing at their full force. But of course, Fnatic is currently one game up. Game one, I would say, they took pretty convincingly. The fights that they won really, really hard. They got picked off a few times, but that's just by virtue of what Alliance was actually picking in the first game. So for Alliance, we're potentially thinking S4 could be mid, which is going to mean that there's going to be an off-lane mag, which we haven't had a chance to see in quite a while. So do you feel as though the mag might just sack his lane, try to double jungle with the Keeper of the Light instead, or do you think he'll actually make an appearance there bottom?
He'll probably move down there just to see if he can actually do something. If they actually swap out, or swap when Admiral Bulldog is there, they could just go for some mind games now and S4 actually swap with the mag. But if Bulldog plays on the mag and goes to the bottom lane, feels like he might just go down just to check it out and see if they slip up with the waves or anything. But at 1 minute 30 seconds, if he hasn't seen the wave, I feel that he should just go straight away up to the jungle, get Empower level 1, and just try and go for jungle together with the Keeper to be able to get those levels up a lot faster, because Empower level 1 actually makes you able to kill off the small camp if you have a Stout Shield from the start, so it's not that bad. And then you have the Illuminate, of course, with the extra damage. So I feel like he should just go for the jungle straight away unless he sees that they slip up somehow with the wave, so it actually gets pushed up so he can get maybe half a full wave of experience would be good.
Well, Fnatic, of course, they also have the option open to them if they want to aggressively try lane just because they have a Nature's Prophet. Now, we talked about Keeper of the Light in the defensive position with a Rubik. Very difficult to play aggressive on that lane, but at the same time, the heroes in their lane, all three of them have double nuke. You have Mana Burn and Impale on the NA, and then you have Era, of course, with Avalanche and Toss, and then you have Fly with Light Strike Array and Dragon Slave. So they have 6 nukes between 2 heroes, and potentially a Prophet who can teleport to that lane and try to kill. Now, against a Phantom Lancer who doesn't have that great a lane presence, sure, he's got good defensive supports, but there could be some serious pressure applied by Fnatic if they do want to go top.
Yeah. I mean, you got Telekinesis to lift, of course, but like all their heroes are quite squishy level 1. The Keeper of the Light, the really squishy support, as well as the Rubik. And then, of course, the Phantom Lancer. He's got no stats item whatsoever at this point, but we'll most likely see him pick up some branches. But he's gonna be just about 500 HP, and that's nothing. Especially if you have a level 3 on the Tiny, where you can actually combo if you get the setup stuns from the Lina as well as the Nyx. So it could be very, very good for them to go for an aggressive if they want to.
And also have to think about this: flying bugs, 1300 range on Toss at level 1. You don't really need to be able to get in a good position to throw a bug at somebody. I mean, as long as you can see them, you can just lob them in.
You're like, go.
Yeah. I mean, that's how we would play
I
it.
choose you, honey. And then you're like, go. Throw him behind the tower somewhere, just nuke him. But yeah, that could actually be very good, especially with the toss change, like you pointed out. Even though it was quite a long time ago, but it's still a very good change for him, just having the max range straight away.
The thing is, too, like, if they catch the Rubik, there's nobody who can help him. I mean, an Illuminate's not going to force 3 heroes back on its own, especially if Alliance starts trying to pull. As soon as a Tiny leaves the lane, you're going to have maybe like 3 to 4 seconds to react to get back before they can initiate on you. So if the Impale hits, the Toss hits, Light Sticker is probably going to be there. So I know it's a lot of 3D crafting, but I mean, it could be a very dangerous situation for Alliance here, depending if Fnatic want to try to go up there or not. And then, of course, that would mean that Trixie would be soloing 1 versus 1 against a mag as a Nature's Prophet. And as hard of a time as ranged heroes have versus Nature's Prophet, a mag with a Stout Shield is actually quite a bit easier to deal with it. And Bruno?
5 minutes.
5 minutes left on the clock. Okay, thank you for the update. So yeah, I feel as though these lanes could indicate a lot of which team is going to get the advantage here.
Yeah, we're gonna really see how it goes. But like we said, though, if they actually swap out, so they have S4 playing on the mag in mid instead, and then have the Juggernaut down in bottom, and they run on an aggressive lane, Juggernaut is going to be able to get quite a bit as well. And he should be able to go down to the bottom lane, even if they run a defensive tri lane, Fnatic that is.
Yeah.
Because he got his Blade Flurry. So if he managed to pop it before the Nyx down actually hits, then he's going to be fine, because he's just going to be able to spin away. But still, he can still get caught. But another good thing is that he doesn't actually have to go for a stout. He can just go for boots if he goes up against the tri lane.
Well, I think the mid game clearly going to be going the way of Fnatic, no real doubt about that, unless for some reason Alliance just has an amazing start. I just don't really see how they could, though. I mean, their lanes are built more for stability than anything else. They're not necessarily going for kills. They're going for, let's let S4 and Loda get to a mid-game kind of unobstructed. Let's try to take team fights when we know that we're going to have a Diffusal Blade up or whatever core items that S4 wants to be going for, get the RP going, and then try to take fights after that. So, I don't know, man. This is going to be a close one for me, because if Fnatic get the momentum, you could very easily see it going pretty one-sided. I mean, PL does need like 1 or 2 items to really contribute, and as good of a hero as Juggernaut is without items, against that kind of a team, there's just too many disables to try to fight against on your own.
Yeah, Tiny's just such a strong carry as well. He needs his Aghanims, and then he can just fight if he wants to.
Yeah.
And if he gets his Aghanims, that means that if he gets it in, say, 20-25 minutes, that means he's got quite okay farm anyways. And he's just going to get stronger and stronger from that point on. And if they can keep the Phantom Lancer down during that point as well, he's going to be able to outcarry the Phantom Lancer until he hits a heart. But with the Aghanims, they can just push so fast, and then they have the Prophet for the split push as well. So their pushing power is just going to be so good. And then, of course, you have the Nyx Assassin running around in Vendetta behind, trying to pick off heroes. Most likely going to try and go for the Coddle pretty much every time. Just because Coddle having quite a decent mana pool, but still low HP, the mana burn is going to do a lot of damage. And then just being able to pick him off fast and then go for push. So Fnatic's lineup really strong in the mid game. But the problem with Tiny being a really good hard carry, he's going to have a hard time in late game if it actually goes to late game against the PO. Because PO with the slow, as well as the Fusel Blade, they're going to be able to kite the Tiny quite well. Because you usually don't actually go for a BKB on the Tiny. You just want to go for hard-hitting items.
And Mana Leak actually hurts Tiny as well, because he needs things like Avalanche to be able to stay in range, and he definitely needs backup from his team. And the Blinding Light, since Tiny is a hero who typically doesn't go for a BKB, that can be very effective as well. But of course, we only have a couple minutes left before we're actually going to have to remake, so it's looking pretty likely that Alliance is going to have to use a stand-in, which means that he's most likely going to be playing either on the Rubik or the Magus, depending on which they're more comfortable with. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but again, at least it's at the beginning of the game and not after like a very controversial Roshan fight or something crazy like that. But regardless, looking forward to the game. And also don't forget, guys, after this semifinals, we have the next semifinals going to be coming up shortly thereafter, and it's going to be Team Liquid taking on Dignitas, which is actually the rematch of the D2L finals, if you guys did have a chance to catch that. So you basically get a replay.
Yeah, and it's going to be US East on both games as well, so it's going to be very nice to see. Kind of like this, even though the finals is cool where it's, and no matter what, it's going to be NA versus EU, it's still nice to see both teams playing on their preferred servers, because they just play a lot better. So the second semifinals, of course, is going to be very interesting as well. Having that rematch, it's going to be good. But we were talking about the stand-in. We're most likely going to see Smilgoig again, and he'll probably play the off lane. So either the Mag or the Juggernaut, depending if they wanted to swap it up or not. But at this point, probably the Mag.
Yeah, it's 1 minute left.
Yeah, so we got the 60-second countdown going, but looking like Admiral Bulldog's internet not going to be cooperating today. Well, I'm assuming they're going to be using Smuggle again. They actually just asked me if they could use sneaking, and I'm like, no, you can't.
No.
You can't use a guy from another team that's still in the tournament to stand in. That would be a little bit weird. So unfortunately, they're not going to be able to use him. But we'll see who they get for the remake of this game. And best of luck to Admiral Bulldog's internet and being able to actually fix itself. And if we do go to a game 3, at the very least, then hopefully he'll be back, because his timing so far is roughly, what was it, 30 minutes? I think his internet was down, and then he decided to come back. So roughly like halfway between this game, maybe close to game 3 if there happens to be one, we'll get a chance to see him again.
We'll probably just DC at the start again. So no, but hopefully we'll have him back. But at this point,
it's done. You can go remake now.
Yeah. At this point, we're going to go into a remake with the stand-in for NoTidehunter, or Alliance, which is a bit sad, and Trans just changed the camera. My hair looks amazing. So I'm gonna
It does look pretty good,
I'm
actually.
going to put my hat on again, because that's the reason
Hashtag hat off.
You can leave your
That's
hat
what I
on, Weapus.
I don't know why I looked at the preview monitor to see your hair when you're actually right next to me. If it just went like this, and it would have been good.
So yeah, I'm going to DC as well, because I'm still in the game. I'm slow.
Need to make sure we set this all up properly. All pick. Okay, cool. So we're going to be waiting a couple minutes for Alliance to get their hands on a stand-in.
In the meantime, we just ran a poll
Yeah.
a few minutes ago. So it's ready. We have the results now, and we're going to show that now. Bam.
Bam!
Which lineup is strongest? NT8, Fnatic. Yeah, that's... ignore that one. That's a bug.
Wait,
But yeah,
what's the
people
third
are
one?
like... It's very even. Like, it's very undecided. I honestly think that Fnatic's lineup is actually stronger. But the fact that there's a Phantom Lancer skews the result towards saying that Alliance has a strong lineup.
Well, if the game actually does go late, we're going to get an opportunity to see how good Tiny is theoretically against a late game Phantom Lancer, because you think about things like Craggy Exterior and such, and you're like, yeah, it could potentially be really, really good, but overall, Phantom Lancer is like the end-all be-all late game hero right now. I mean,
Yeah.
you could argue maybe a Void with like a ton of farm could potentially contest him just because his ultimate is really, really good, but other than that, it's kind of like PL is just, he's up there.
He's out there. So okay, game is on the way, and we are not having a small league, are we?
No, we're
No,
having
it's
Ixu
Ixu.
instead.
Ixu, is that guy from...
They knew him from Han, I believe. He used to
Yeah,
play
and
on
Dota
their
before.
team.
Yeah.
And Dota as well. So they definitely know the guy.
Yeah.
He is a very skilled player. I've actually played against him in Han before, so he was always pretty good. And of course, there's not going to be any language barrier, so it's going to be good. It's not quite maybe a Smolga League, because he's so often seen in playing
I
competitive
believe
games
Smo
and
is
such.
a bit better, but
Yeah.
we'll have to see what Ixu can actually do. And it looks like he's picked up the mag, so he's going to be playing that offlane mag, and S4 is most likely going to go mid on that Juggernaut. But one thing that I wanted to pitch in was, like, I pointed it out before when you talking about Tiny against the Phantom Lancer. It's just that in the late game, Tiny not being a carry that usually goes for the BKB, like we pointed out, it's just he's going to be kited so easily unless he actually gets a good Dream Coil that locks down the heroes that he wants to hit. So it's going to be really hard for him to just be able to get in on the fights and do a lot of damage. But he's still very, very strong against the PL.
Well, we're going to get a chance to see Alliance's lanes take shape here. And I think the laning phase, as we were talking about it, it's going to be one of the more interesting points of the game, because we see Alliance lineup and we're like, yeah, late game, mid game, it's going to be strong, but S4 is actually going towards the bottom lane. Apparently he is going to be off-laning versus what appears to be at the moment Fnatic's defensive tri lane of their own. So this is an ideal situation for the Phantom Lancer and of course Era both. They're going to get a chance to basically free farm and get whatever core items they need up. The one important thing is that Fnatic's mid game is ridiculously strong, and they're also putting Alliance's fate currently in the hands of a stand-in of Ixu, so he's going to have a pretty darn good game as well.
Yeah, putting a stand in mid is always a bit risky. I mean,
Risky business, man.
even if you know he's a good player and he's been playing a long time, it's still kind of risky to just have him mid. So we'll have to see how it goes. And Mingles is just
Hi, Mingles.
walking around here. I was actually up looking at the kittens. Freaking cute, man. They're
They
running
actually
around.
open their eyes now, yeah.
The
they
tabby
move
one is
around.
like so friendly. Like ran up to me straight away and started climbing on me. So yeah. But we're in the game anyways, and Trixie setting up his treants to scout up in the top lane.
Well, looks like we could be seeing a potential aggressive tri lane as Alliance have decided to switch things up a bit. Maybe they're anticipating that there's going to be a defensive tri lane from Fnatic, and they just want to go at it. They're going to leave Loda up on the top line to farm all by himself. They do have a pretty good lane, actually, to support a Juggernaut, because if you think about it, Juggernaut's kill potential on his own is much higher than most other heroes at level 1. And if you supplement that with, of course, Chakra, once Ake is able to hit level 2, and even one Telekinesis, that can very easily be a kill, because how else are you going to stop the Juggernaut outside of getting lucky and the toss hitting him?
Yeah, their kill potential, like you said, is really big, and then you have the Chakra to just give mana back to the Juggernaut all the time, and he's going to be able to get some very good farm here, since it's still a melee support on the side of Fnatic, and you got 2 range on the Lions side. They're going to be able to right-click down Era quite a bit, so Fly is going to be forced to pull straight away, and they're most likely going to pull into the camp above, and then maybe into the hard camp, so it's going to get pushed down, but with the lineup that the Lions got, they can actually contest it, because if they get a good lift, they should be able to do so much damage.
It's just a free kill, essentially. The heroes just don't have the health to live through it. Hani might be able to because he has boots, but Fly probably not going to be quite as lucky. And the lanes have actually already switched, by the way, as No-Tail has actually gone to the top lane to play against Loda, and he says Mouse, which makes sense because why else would he be standing there? That is definitely not where you want to be standing in that lane. So he's going to be going up against Loda, and then of course we're going to have the Nature's Prophet mid playing against a Mag. So we talked a little bit about this matchup before. Ixu, he doesn't have a Stout Shield, but you're not actually able to abuse your Treants as well in mid as you are in off lanes, especially when you're in the Dire's off lane as well. There's just a lot of room to be able to chase back to the tower and such, and you don't have to worry about getting ganked either, which is really nice because you're basically on the opposite side of the map of the tri-lane. So this mid matchup, I think, is going to end up actually going in favor of Mag, especially once he starts getting up those arcane boots in that bottle.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you can't really be harassed out in this lane. I mean, the Puck can, of course, harass you out a bit more, but it's still a lot harder for him to do it. So he's going to be able to get a level 6 up and then just try and start roaming straight away as soon as he gets his arcanes. And he's got a bottle already. EGM is going to deny the haste room bottom from Hani. So at this point, still quite of a passive game, but both hard carries just trying to farm away, and getting levels on the mid lanes is the name of the game pretty much right now.
Well, it's also important to remember that even though Alliance's tri-lane, we're talking about how their tri-lane is very good for kill potential. Once the Lina and the Nyx start getting to like level 2, 3, Era gets a couple of levels himself, that Rubik, that Keeper of the Light, they are incredibly easy to kill for this tri-lane. So it's going to come down to the positioning, who gets the better initiation, because if one hero gets stunned once on the side of Alliance's tri-lane, sure, the Juggernaut can spin, but even S4 can die in a stun lock if he's not prepared and he doesn't spin fast enough.
Yeah. I mean, the damage, like you said, we pointed it out before, the nukes. They got 6 nukes to use. And if they can chain it correctly, he's not going to get that Blade Fury out. And there's still going to be 3 heroes to just right-click him. So even if he gets it out on low HP, he might not survive, because he's going to be forced to put out the healing ward first, and it's not going to heal him that fast, especially since it's still only level 1. Maybe just because he's level 2, so it's hard to have it at higher levels, but it's still... they can still burst him down.
Obviously, this bottom lane, where at least we are expecting most of the action to be coming out here, and just kind of waiting to see which team wants to make the first move. But I have to say, when Alliance get a couple of levels, especially on that Keeper of the Light, they can start playing a little bit more reckless, because they're going to have that Illuminate, they're going to have the Blade Fury they can use pretty much on cooldown because of Chakra. They're going to be able to D-ward here, which is quite nice. So no more vision coming out on the side of Fnatic. So now both teams are pretty much playing this blind, but I don't think Alliance necessarily cares too much about that. Here in top lane, we can see that No-Tail is actually doing a very nice job against Loda at the moment. Even with the Poor Man's Shield, he's managed to take all the regen off of Loda, which is impressive, because Puck's auto attack itself, not really that threatening. Sure, he does a decent amount of damage, but his animation, and especially his travel time, pretty poor.
Yep. And right now, actually, Alliance, they got the 2 top farmers together with Trixie's. Trixie's been keeping up in the mid lane on that Nature's Prophet, but Juggernaut is farming a bit better, or not just a bit better, he's almost 10 last hits higher than the Tiny at this point, which is really good for him, because we said that Juggernaut can do a lot with basically no items whatsoever. But if he gets farmed, he's just going to be so much more devastating, because he's going to be able to get a higher level into Omnislash and then get some damage items for that Omnislash as well. It's just going to be really, really good for them.
Well, they're currently contesting the poll. S4 are going to be able to interrupt the golems, and this is one thing you can do when you can contest a pull, is just take the farm away from the other team. Instead of the supports getting those golems, it's going to be S4. So you've basically just given him a jungle to farm by pulling that creep wave in the first place. They could be looking to loop around the back, though. Alliance kind of caught a little bit out of position who they want to go for. Is it going to be S4? He managed to get stunned actually before the Blade Spin, but no, the follow-up stun from Era just isn't there. Fly now going to be in a lot of trouble himself. The Blade Fury, though, not going to be able to get the kill. Trixie teleported in, though. It does get the first blood on Ake and gets that ridiculous auto attack off the second time. Not even sure how they saw him, and S4 is going to be dropping as well. The long distance toss, level 1, 1300 range. He shoots Wet Boss, he scores.
That's the potential of the tri-lane, especially when you have... that was really good, actually. I was like, how can I even follow this up? It was hard, but... yeah, but you can really see the potential, and then, of course, having the Prophet, having him in mid, being able to get so many levels up, just being able to TP in. Trixie managed to get a double kill as well as the first blood, so that's going to be very big for him. Mag got his Arcane Boots up as well as level 6, so he can start rotating. But it's not going to be as fast as the Nature's Prophet.
Yeah. Especially since, he's mid, he's 7 now. He's got treads, he's got a Bastion, 800 gold after getting 2 of those kills. He actually got the first blood on top of another kill. And I was a little bit worried because Era, he really hesitated on his stun. They could have easily killed us 4 there before any reaction came out, but NoTail might be in some trouble here now. Courier's going to be here as well, going to be sent back to base, and NoTail going to try to jaunt to the orb. Will he get far enough away? The Illuminate's going to be there, but no, the bottle charge going to keep him alive. And NoTail is going to be able to retreat pretty safely. So Alliance, they've pretty much abandoned this lane. I think when you lose your entire tri-lane straight away, it's a good idea to just change up the game plan.
Yeah, you can send the Juggernaut down since S4 managed to get his face boots up. So he's got face boots and he got the Blade Fury as well. So he's going to be able to spin away and then the healing ward, of course. So he'll be able to stay in this lane, but now they're just going to put all their attention to the Phantom Lancer and just force him into the late game to just be able to get the farm they want up on him. So right now, though, going back into a more passive game, and the Mag is actually being the one with the highest creep farm, but Air is starting to catch up now since he's got the free lane.
You know what's really strange to me is NoTail is actually sitting at 31 and 7. He's higher than Loda. I know he was bottle crowing in that lane. We actually saw the Courier when they attempted to gank him in the top, but still, the fact that he's been able to have such a high level of farm, given the lane that he was in, it's really hard to lane against melee heroes in the off lane with a hero with not such a great animation. So, props to NoTail for accomplishing all that he has so far in this game. And again, 3-0 in favor of Fnatic here in Game 2. A very, very nice start. And I think S4 is going to have to be a bit more active than he wants to be. Actually, middle lane, going to see a skewer, and NoTail gets picked off. Hacerun popped on Ixu, and they managed to get the kill with the RP as well. So NoTail, just as we were singing his praises, ends up giving away a kill there.
Yeah, very nice. Just popping the RP once Ake started to channel the Illuminate and getting a very good pick off on the puck since they failed the gank earlier. They managed to get it now, so opening up even more room for Loda to farm right now. Since Trixie moved into jungle and they had NoTail moving in, or moving into mid instead, he's actually TP'd up top, so he's going to try and disrupt this farm a bit more again. He's got level 4 into silence, but Loda still managed to catch up a bit in farm, but NoTail is still up there in farm. He's still higher than Loda at this point.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how he's managing to stay ahead, especially given the fact that he just died. I mean, he went mid, he basically got like maybe one wave, and then he got killed by Ixu and of course Ake. So he's still doing a really good job of remaining relevant, and this is a very standard Fnatic style. They have 3 heroes who are getting a decent chunk of farm. Era actually managed to complete his treads now. He's level 7, and he's also got that Quelling Blade. So this is like what you see Aoi do all the time. From Dignitas, he always goes pretty much this exact item build. Then he buys his point booster, and then he goes straight into an Aghanim. So we'll see if he wants to follow that same path or if he wants to deviate a bit. But middle Ixu, he's got this invisibility rune. Didn't have RP up though, so a little unfortunate. But he's definitely had a good start, I have to say. He's sitting at 50 CS right now.
Yeah, so he's going to get closer to his Blink Dagger, and they're actually going to use a
coil. There's the Waning Rift again, that is level 4. Not going to be able to skewer away fast enough, and a very, very fast pickoff in favor of Fnatic. So they do ended up losing NoTail a while ago. S4 is coming here. He does that Omni Slash if he wants to try to use it. He will be able to do it. Hits Trixie all 3 times. Teammate's just a little bit too far away, and he does barely have mana to spin out of the engagement. So a nice pickoff there. They managed to take out Trixie.
Very nice there, abusing nighttime as well as the hill or the high ground.
Yeah.
Making all the hits just hit Trixie. So really, really nice play from S4 there, getting a pickoff. And it pretty much stopped the push as well, because Fnatic probably could have been able to get a tower there. just having the tree ends up as well as having 4 heroes there. So really good pick-off kill. But it was very good for Fnatic as well, just stopping Ixu from getting that Blink Dagger up on the mag. He's down to 900 gold now. He was actually up to 1400 at that point, but should be able to finish it up quite fast. Like we pointed out, he's still one of the top farmers in the game, and he's been able to stay up there for quite some time.
Well, once that Blink Dagger is completed, I would expect Alliance to start taking some fights, because you can't let Fnatic do whatever they want either. Sure, you have a Phantom Lancer, but the way that you want to go about it is applying pressure in other places to allow Loda to continue to get his farm. Having EGM set up here is going to help to an extent, but it's not going to help quite as much as forcing No-Tail to go fight elsewhere, because that way your lane's completely unobstructed. So I would expect Alliance to at least try to apply some pressure as the time goes on. We can see some creep stacking here in the jungle. Honey and Fly going to be sharing the experience of that. And once that Lina hits 6-2, I mean, these supports are actually quite high level. It's 11 minutes in, and a lot of that, of course, is going to be attributed to the fact that they got a triple kill, basically, on the tri-lane. But they are abusing the stacks, and they're nuking quite nicely here.
Yeah, but on the other hand, though, Alliance supports are still keeping up with levels, and EGM just keeping on pulling the lane. He's almost going to be level 6. He's about 100 experience away from level 6, which is going to be really good for him, just being able to get the steal in. Stealing either Toss, maybe Dream Coil, or Avalanche is just going to be huge for him. And he's going to hit it at the same time as the Nyx, pretty much. So he's going to have a level 1 Vendetta he can steal as well, which is really good for him.
And Vendetta is such a high damage ability as well. Not only that, but allows you to get in a good position. S4 does have Omni Slash. I think he spotted Honey there for just a second, but it is nighttime, so it's very difficult to actually go in there for the kill. He's going for drums. So usually the standard build is the phase drum. Sometimes you go Manta, sometimes you go Diffusal, or sometimes both. Depends on the situation, but that build typically gives you the best survivability, the best impact for the mid game, and allows you to buy that very, very valuable time for your PL to continue getting his farm. And we can see Ake has also made the transition here bottom. He's actually been here for a while, but he's basically just been counter pushing to make sure that Eric can't just get this tower for free.
Yep, which is really good for him because he's getting some good levels as well as some last hits or some gold. And he's going to TP someone in right now, and it's going to be Loda. So he's going to get Loda down to the bottom lane, helping farm.
Tower? Tower's got no HP. It's got 2 health right now. Ake is kind of just sitting next to it. Not sure if they want to try to bait him to go into it or not, but he actually tossed a creep on the tower to try to get the last hit, but didn't quite work out. And yeah, he has to know. He has to know about this.
Yeah, Era actually had a ward, an aggressive ward, that went down just as Loda moved down into the lane, so he's just like, there's no way I'm going to fall for that bait. So
yeah,
at this point, they're just waiting to see if they can still bait it out. But mid lane looked like they wanted to try and go for Ixu, but didn't really manage to. So
yeah, there was a sentry down. Hani uses Vendetta, but he got spotted out. So very nice ward placement coming out of Alliance.
Yep, and they're playing it out really well, really slowing down the game a lot.
Oh, Trixie gets the bottom tower. I cannot believe that that tower actually didn't get denied. It had 2 health. 2 health.
That was just so weird that they didn't deny it when they saw that Era just backed out.
Yeah.
It was a weird decision, and now Trixie getting even more gold, so he's up to 2.1k gold with the Midas at 13 minutes, as well as Power Thread, so he might just try and go for a fast cheap, as we see EGM actually getting picked off in top lane.
Yeah.
So we missed out on that, but Dream Coil was used, as well as having the Nyx Assassin and the Lina here.
Well, No-Tail actually closing in on his blink as well. I mean, he's up to 1400. After this tower dies, he's going to be even closer. Maybe he'll get the last hit, and that'll actually put him pretty much on a blink if he manages to do that. And there hasn't been any reaction of Alliance. It looks like they're going to be pushing bottom instead. So they're going to be trading tier 1 for tier 1 here.
Yep.
Or maybe not. Nyx is teleporting in. They might want to try to fight this. S4 is going to be walking into the jungle. Hani does pop his Vendetta, though. He's got those arcane boots. Is he going to try to initiate? Sentry is going to be dropped under the tower, so yeah, Hani definitely knows it's there. Not going to be much chance of a rebuttal here from Fnatic.
Yep. Trixie actually finished off his Shadow Blade, so he's just going to go for being really annoying, going Invis around together with Hani now that he's level 6 on the Nyx, and then just trying to get some good pickoffs together with Split Push, and Ixu backing out very nicely. But he's got an Invis rune as well as a Blink right now. Oh, he's using the Invis in Fly's vision.
I actually don't know if he saw that. He was kind of hugging the tree line, but Fnatic are kind of falling back for the moment. Era currently the one in the most danger at the moment. But yeah, I think they actually did see that. We'll see.
No-Tail Smoke actually broke as well, so they're just gonna play it defensively here. Loda's up farming top, but Aki's got his ultimate up, so he can TP Loda in if he wants to, and if they want to try and force a fight here. But they got some really good split push or counter push on the side of Fnatic.
And both teams kind of just hovering around middle at the moment, but Ixu still has it invis up for a couple more seconds. There's a sentry down mid, though. Long distance stun coming out of Hani. Going to be a little bit off the mark. Oh, Omni slash on the fly, but it bounces to Hani. Under the tower, Fly still alive for the moment, but not for long as Vendetta is stolen by EGM. Manages to get the kill on Fly with its Sprout. Onto Ixu. NoTail going to be pulled straight into an Illuminate and eventually picked off by Ixu as Trixie is going to be forced back to his tier 2. And Hani, I mean, he got his Vendetta stolen, so he has to know there are sentries at least in the area. He's trying to be as sneaky as he can, but yeah, he just walked right into one, so not so sneaky anymore. And there's going to be an RP just on one, but it does manage to hit Era. Another missed stun coming out of Hani and Era all by himself. How the heck did he just toss what is even going on? He just tossed Ake from so far away, or maybe that was EGM tossing him, but that was so weird. Anyway, Ixu going to eat a Laguna Blade there in the face, and Hani is taken out. That looked so weird to me. For a second, I didn't know that he stole another spell. And it looked to me like Era tossed the wrong person. I was like, my brain just didn't register quite that fast.
Looked really weird, but yeah, like you said though, EGM actually stole toss, so another really good steal from him. And that's when the fun starts, when you get tossed on Rubik.
Yeah, I couldn't even like, I just brain farted. I was like, wait, what? Because I thought that Era used it, but it was actually EGM, and they do lose Ixu there. They got a 1-man RP, and they didn't even manage to kill Era, which is kind of a big deal, and they also lost their mag in the process. So the tier 1 actually is still standing for Fnatic, and all in all, the initial engagement, you can say that Alliance definitely won it on middle lane. He's going to get tossed back into the tower, but he actually lines up a double stun, but he doesn't have any regen, so, oh, the Carapace actually stops some of the damage, but unfortunately not all of it. So Hani kind of playing by himself right there.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, and now Alliance is going to be able to get the mid tower. Ixu on that mag is going to get the last hit, so probably going to work his way towards the refresher straight away if he wants to, as they're going to initiate on him and get a really fast pickup kill. So another kill on the mag, which is really, really good for Fnatic, just being able to pick off that really high impact hero on the side of Alliance.
It's really strange too, because Ixu basically has all of his core items. So really all he needs to do is wait out the RP and then potentially take a team fight. There's no reason to necessarily force it that hard. Sure, if Fnatic are going to be pushing into you, then that's one thing, but he was basically in no man's land right there, all by himself. And he just got picked off by, of course, the puck. So, I mean, Alliance still have to play this intelligently. Like, they can't just say, okay, yeah, PL in like 25 minutes, he's going to be ready to fight. Sure, he actually went for drones first. So if he wants to fight, he can do that. He's already got the defusal completely finished, but he's still very easily killable at this stage. Only 1,000 health against a line that Fnatic have. That's basically nothing.
Yeah, he still needs to get a hard up to be able to survive. Like you said, 1,000 health against just their trialing, which was 6 nukes, and then you got 2 more nukes on top. Oh, Hani actually going for the wrong target, going for one of the illusions. But then you got 2 more nukes on the puck, as well as 1 more nuke from the Prophet. So, what's that? That's 9 nukes, I believe?
Yeah, it's a lot.
So, it's just massive amounts of damage coming out of the side of Fnatic. So, they really need a heart. And Ixu doing some very fancy blinks.
NoTail actually has a gem now, so that's going to help. And in terms of at least getting Trixie and this Nyx into fights, because otherwise, they just had sentries all over the place. When they were pushing down mid, Alliance had 2 sentries, basically one in front of the tower, one behind it, and there was no real way for Hani to initiate. So he actually needs a blink himself to be able to get into these fights in a big way and start causing some problems. They do already have a puck with one, but the more initiation, basically, the better. Especially when you know that the later the game goes, your opponent is going to have some kind of advantage. You want to try to get items that can actually force the fights.
Mm-hmm. One thing I actually like a lot with Loda's latest pickup is that he actually instantly upgraded the Diffusal Blade to be able to get more mana burn to use on the Tiny, because he doesn't actually need the Diffusal charges too much this game.
Yeah.
Because he's got some help to actually be able to stick on top of targets, because they got the mag with the RP, and then they got the telekinesis as well. So he can use the diffusal more for dusts only, because there's nothing like a track or anything that he needs to use the diffuser charges on, which is really good. So he's just going for the straight amount of straight, getting more damage as well as more HP or more mana, and then more mana burn, of course.
Courier just kind of chilling out here near the top ward spot, and they're going to buy some dust too, so we'll see if they... Wait, there's a double courier again, isn't there? Yeah, Fnatic have 2 couriers. So 2 couriers on one team, 1 courier on the other. I actually saw this the other day too, so I'm starting to think that maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe they just wanted 2 couriers. Because if you have 2 people, or at least 1 person who wants to bottle crow in an off lane, then you can definitely get away with that, and that's probably why NoTail was succeeding so well in his lane.
Yeah, especially when you have supports that are pulling as well, they should be able to get the gold up for another courier very fast.
Yeah.
And then you can have the Prophet just TP it back to base, put it out really fast, and then go back to mid lane since he was mid. And he doesn't really lose too much time, so not really a bad decision, but it's more like...
Unorthodox.
Very unorthodox, and you shouldn't use it every game, because it's really, really situational depending on the game and how the game is shaping out.
Well, the way the game's shaping up right now is Fnatic, they're not really applying a whole lot of pressure here. They do have a couple of people top lane, and one of them is going to be Trixie. I mean, he's continuing to farm quite nicely. He's already back up to 3,200 gold. He's got his Shadow Blade, his Midas, his Treads. Now, this is a situation where you would typically think maybe Orchid is going to be his choice, because they have so many stuns that a Hex is going to cost more money, and you kind of want the Orchid faster, especially for somebody like Ixu, even EGM, maybe S4. Those are the 3 heroes that you're probably going to be silencing over all else, and it's going to allow you to get those kills a lot easier. So what do you think the next choice for him is actually going to be?
I'd say probably, like you said, the Orchid, or just go for even more split push. They might just try and go for just full out split push. Maybe go for a Manta style, just to be able to break dusts if he wants to split push. But like you said, he needs to be in fights though and help out, because he's going to be the second damage dealer that they're going to have to use together with the Tiny, because the Tiny is going to get kited. That's just how it is at this point, because the Diffusal Blade is up and they got telekinesis as well as the lands coming out from Phantom Lancer. So he's going to get kited, and they can't really stop that. So they need Trixie to be in fights and just help out to do damage. So Orchid or a Sheep would be very, very good, but like you said, Orchid most likely going to be the first item.
We had a chance to see Fnatic there taking a pretty big Ancient stack, abusing the treants to tank it, while Tiny just beat it down, so more gold coming the way of Era. But Lotus still remains pretty high up on the net worth, even though his start, not necessarily fantastic, but he's now up to 150 CS. The Empower is starting to kick in as well, so he can jungle, clear the lane extremely fast at this point, and the timer kind of has to be on Fnatic's mind. Sure, the Tiny, the Nature's Prophet, both farming quite well, but 3 of the 5 top farmers currently are on the side of Alliance. So I kind of feel like Fnatic, they want to try to emphasize fighting at least a little bit. And not only do Alliance have the better late game, but they have a team who can take Roshan incredibly easily, especially with a fortuitous DD rune picked up here by S4.
Yep, and then you have the Healing Ward, of course, that's going to help them out. And Fnatic got no clue that this is going on right now. And with this, having an Aegis, if they actually give it to Loda, they can just go fight if they want to, because they're gonna be Loda's gonna be strong enough, and he's gonna have two lives as well. So if they use everything to nuke him down the first time, he's gonna still be in the fight. And S4 being as farmed as he is, he's gonna be able to do quite some damage as well. And the Aegis is gonna go Loda's way, and a Blink Dagger is gonna be picked up at the same time by the Nyx, which is really nice for him.
Well, this next fight is going to be huge for either team. If somehow Fnatic manages to pull this out with an Aegis on the Phantom Lancer, then the game seems pretty favorable for them. But I feel as though this move from Alliance was the best possible thing they could have done. Give themselves an opportunity to win a fight just because you have an Aegis, like you were saying. Just because you know that whoever they burst, if it's Loda, he's going to be right back. If it's somebody else, then Loda can just wreak havoc throughout the entire fight with his Diffusal. I mean, he's actually getting kind of close to a heart. He's only about 2,000 away, maybe like 2,200. So once he gets that, then things are looking a little bit scary actually for Fnatic, and they're going to be up here in the top woods, and Ake going to spot him out, but unfortunately Fnatic have no real way of initiating right now.
Yeah, with the item build that Era is going at the moment on Tiny, getting the Hyperstone up right now, going for an AC most likely, he's not going to be able to catch up to anyone. He really needs...
Orchid. Orchid onto Loda, but Trixie just getting caught out completely. Not really sure what he was doing right there. S4, though, going to get stunned by Hani. And Era and the Nyx Assassin are both going to try to retreat here. Drums are popped. They want to try to pursue this, but I don't actually think they're quite fast enough. Ixu possibly looking for a blink opportunity, but not going to find one. And yeah, that was so bizarre from Trixie right there.
Yeah, I mean, the damage from Loda with the level 2 diffusal, it's really weird for him to just go into that fight. Because he only had 2 heroes that could back him up at that point.
Oh, Ixu getting caught in the river here. Going to see a coil and a waning rift to follow up after the Vendetta. Ixu actually quite tanky, living quite well. Oh, Fly, unfortunately, not quite as tanky. Just eats a full Omni Slash, and S4 actually picks up the double by securing Hani with that Blade Fury as well. So, now, it seems like Alliance, everything is looking pretty good for them.
Yeah, they're getting the farm they need. And they're really strong in team fights right now. And like I pointed out earlier, with the choice that Era is going for the AC, I feel like a Manta style would have been a bit better, just to be able to get in and fight. And of course having the pushing power with your illusions. But the Manta just getting the extra movement speed and being able to get into fights and fight, because I've said it earlier and I'm going to say it again, because he's going to get kited. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so hard for him to do a lot of damage in these fights if he's in a bad position from the start.
S4 eating an Orchid here. Could potentially try to burst him down. The Nature's Prophet element's going to be there as well, but of course the spin going to keep him alive. Now Trixie needs to be careful. And Ixu, ooh, misses the RP. That is a little bit unfortunate. I actually thought he hit it there, trying to get him back into tower range before it goes down, but not going to be successful. So Era gets the tower kill. Fnatic end up retreating, and RP is spent.
Yep, which is really good for them, getting the tower. Loda actually running around in Fnatic's jungle at this point. But Era can kill off the illusions still quite quickly. But, like you pointed out, Loda is getting that heart. He's up to 4,000 gold, so he needs about, what is it, 400 more, I believe?
Yeah, not much. He's within a few hundred. And once he gets it, man, his HP is not going to necessarily double, but it's going to be quite a bit more than what he has currently. And of course, we saw S4 has his Manta finished. No-Tail doing some counter warding for the time being. We'll see if Alliance actually want to deny that mid-tier one instead of the bottom one where they just left it alone. And yeah, they're going to deny it. So less gold given to the side of Fnatic, which is nice. And the net worths, 3 of the highest, or 2 of the 3 highest, I should say, are on the side of Fnatic. But the next 2 lower than that are both on Alliance's side. And one of them is actually S4, who is in an off lane. Now, it was pretty much an off lane because the tri-lane accomplished very little, and then his tri-lane abandoned him once Fnatic wiped them off the map. So pretty much he was kind of struggling a bit in the first, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes of this game. But he's made a nice recovery. See EGM picking himself up a Ghost Scepter, and Fly probably saving up here for a Blink Dagger. But Fnatic are doing what they can to try to be efficient with their time. They're still ancient stacking, they're still using counter pushing and all that. Oh, Trixie gonna get caught out in the top lane, Scepter's gonna be dropped. Orchid onto S4, can he actually blink out? But no, there's the Manta. Is it gonna hit him? It does. And of course it does interrupt the channeling. And Trixie, man, just not having the best game.
No, and it's very sad for them that Trixie is the one going down, because he's the one that needs to find kills at this point. Even though he can split push quite a bit, he still needs to find those kills. Because at this point, Alliance can just safe it out for the next Aegis to come up, because the heart is finished on Loda. So he's really tanky. They can even take a fight without the Aegis, but if they want to, they can just safe it out and then kill off the last 2 towers as soon as they get the next Aegis, and just go for a base push, because they're so strong at this point.
Well, Fnatic going to be trying to make something happen, I would imagine, between that time to stop them from getting the next Roshan for free. Era has his AC finish. He still hits for about 300, and of course he does have that 3rd rank of his ultimate, so his damage output is still going to be pretty significant. And even with a heart, those illusions still die pretty darn fast. So, I mean, there's a lot of team fighting that Fnatic can still do, and if they win one, it's going to be really, really nice for them, because they can actually take towers and the base quite fast when you have a Tiny with an Aghanim. So the implications of winning a team fight for both teams at this point are pretty large, especially when you start seeing that Roshan, the Aegis is going to be down here in about a minute, so Loda is probably not going to have it for the next fight, and then you have to start wondering, is Fnatic going to be able to take a fight, get the proper positioning to take that next Roshan?
Yeah, at this point, Loda is going to get very close to Butterfly as his next item before the next Roshan actually comes up. So if he managed to get a Butterfly up as well, that's going to be devastating for Fnatic, because he's going to do so much damage in the fights, and even though you have the Tiny with the Aghanims, it's still not really going to be enough to kill off all the illusions.
Yeah, well, Loda continuing his farming spree down here. He's up at 220 CS, still the highest net worth pretty much. And Era sitting on top of 2,300 gold himself. S4 going to spot out Fly here in the woods. He is so fast. Pops the Ghost Scepter, but just in time to get spun down. So Ghost Scepter unfortunately does nothing versus Blade Trade. Actually makes you take more damage. And in the bottom lane, they're going to be trying to take out Loda right here. He is coiled at the moment and silenced out. Is Loda actually going to be dropping? His Aegis is down. The Aegis faded. So Loda taken off the map for 65 seconds. Pretty big pick-off for Fnatic. They lost Fly, but I think trading Loda, they're going to be pleased with that. He actually just buys back. They have a Keeper of the Light if they want to try to pull a middle lane, and I think that's what they're going to do.
Yep. So, really good pickoff, but the question is their split push really going to be that fast? Because Era, he's going to push really, really fast, but Trixie's forced back just to be able to get the treants out and stop this, but they're going to be able to get the tier 3 tower at least.
And Era actually going to retreat as well. And not fighting that, I mean, giving away the tier 3 like that, I think it might have actually just been better for Alliance to go, or excuse me, for Fnatic to go for that fight, because Alliance are now basically attacking Arax. They do have a glyph. They're going to be forced to use it. Follow-up stun, and S4 getting bursted down by the Orchid and the Laguna Blade. Here comes the RP. It manages it. Era, they're going to force him back into the entirety of Alliance. Can he actually do any damage? They both get craggied straight away, but Era just not quite strong enough. Or is he? He gets a toss-up at the very end, and S4 ends up going down along with Ixu. No-Tail picks up the kill. Loda still standing strong, though. Trixie now going to be the next one to fall. He gets Sprout off, but just in time to meet his end, and buybacks coming out on the side of Fnatic. They want to try to pursue this, but I just don't know if they're going to be fast enough. The coil's not up. Nature's Prophet is teleporting basically way in front of the fight right now, looking for potentially Loda. They do dust him out. The coil is off cooldown once again. There's going to be an Orchid on the Loda. He manages to defuse it, though, and more buybacks coming out of the side of Alliance. Who are they going to pull into the fight? Era is now here. They're trying to take out Loda as best they can. There's a Vendetta. The follow-up stun's going to be there, but the Blinding Light, is it going to be enough? Loda not really taking any damage at the moment. Era trying as best he can. They pull S4 back into the fray, and he's going to get stunned out by the Carapace as well, and the Omni Slash to finish off Era, and I think that fight might have just secured Alliance a huge lead in this game number 2.
Yeah, this should be at least a Rex for them, since Era bought back and died in that fight, and they have everybody back. RP's still down for 45 seconds, but overall a really, really good fight for Alliance, and of course, gonna go for a Rex. No tier 2 towers on the other lanes are down, but if they want to, they could just go for a base tower maybe, or just back out and go for the next row, just to safe it out.
Well, that's going to be one Rax going the way of Alliance. No-Tail being as annoying as possible, but not really deterring Loda too much, who, at this point, pretty much just has all of the gold. I mean, he just bought back, and he's back up to 2,300 gold. That's pretty insane. Era managed to secure himself a Talisman of Evasion between the last fight and this one, and Trixie, he's managed to pick himself up a Mithril Hammer. So, I mean, they almost had that fight. If the Blinding Light from Ake wasn't there, there's a good chance that they would have actually killed Loda.
Yeah, for sure. But Loda managing to stay alive in the whole fight, which was really, really good for them, just being able to do so much damage, and his solutions being active in the whole fight also is very, very nice for them. But Roshan soon going to be up again, and Alliance, I feel like they're not going to have too much of, or Fnatic is not really going to be able to contest that Roshan. It should be a very easy Rosh for Alliance.
Well, the thing is, if you're Fnatic and you don't contest this Roshan, then what's the point? And S4 actually gets picked off in a really interesting engagement up top. I guess he was just all by himself, no buyback, 3 minutes on cooldown, which means the next Roshan, suddenly, it feels like Fnatic could potentially take it. It is going to spawn. And Alliance, they're going to be forced back towards their tier 2s. Loda's going to be doing what he can to try to split push, but I don't really know how effective that's going to be, given that with an Aegis, Fnatic could get all the edge they need to take possibly the next team fight and turn this game around.
Yeah, and right now Era picked up a Talisman of Evasion. I don't know if you actually pointed it out, but he's going for a Butterfly most likely. Might have just picked up the Talisman to get the extra evasion up, but this should be quite an easy Roshan for them.
Oh, No-Tail going to kind of initiate there. Goes up to the high ground, going to go ahead and orb and jaunt back into the pit, just in time for Era to secure himself an Aegis. So very nicely done by Fnatic, getting that one pick off in the top lane on S4. I don't know why his name escaped me there for a second, but they managed to kill the Juggernaut, which is very, very important, especially because when his Omni Slash is off cooldown, he can isolate supports so easily and just take them out. And at this stage, Laguna Blade is kind of necessary to get kills, as is Vendetta.
Yeah, and like you said, that pretty much was all because they managed to get the pick-off kill up in top lane. Just because not having the Omni Knight or the Juggernaut with the Omni Slash down there is just so big for them, and the healing ward, of course, for the supports. That's one of the biggest things. Just having the healing ward up for the supports is huge in their fights, because if they don't, we've said it before, like the burst on Fnatic is still there, and without the healing ward, the supports are going to die really, really fast. So they really need to have it up.
Well, Loda's sitting on top of 4,500 bank right now, so the next item he's going to be buying has yet to be seen. Probably going to be that butterfly, though, like you were saying. That's when PL becomes PL for most intents and purposes. He's just so tough to take down after that point. But Era, I mean, his farm is still reasonably good. It's not even like he's that far behind, although I guess Loda also hasn't changed his net worth in a while because he hasn't bought anything. I don't think it actually counts the gold that you're just holding on to, so I think Loda is actually quite a bit ahead of him. But Alliance aren't necessarily in the worst position in the world. Of course, they did manage to take the middle racks, so the lane's always going to be pushing in their favor. The Nature's Prophet's going to do an okay job at counteracting that as best they can, but because Trixie decided to go for a Desolator and nothing like a Hex, I think the longer the game goes, they're kind of needing that Hex. They're kind of needing the extra disable, whereas earlier, it was okay to get the Orchid just because you had so many disables. Now, you kind of need another disable because S4 actually picks up the BKB.
Yeah, and S4 is getting a lot stronger at this point, which means that they need the crowd control for him as well. So at this point, he's just not keeping Loda down or the mag. They gotta keep S4 down as well because he's gonna do so much damage to them. Getting a tiny bit distracted, but
yeah, it makes sense.
It's like
we
food
all know why
everywhere.
we're getting distracted. This is why the good studio is professionalism at its finest. But
something like that.
Loda's just continuing to farm up. He's getting really close to that butterfly. He's only a couple hundred away from it. Of course, the mech on Ake that he's had for pretty much most of the game, I would say. But it's 37 minutes in, and you could say that Alliance, they have an advantage, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a set-in-stone clear advantage. I would say that Fnatic still have this opportunity. If they get another pick, like they did on S4, they could very easily turn that into a counter-X.
Yeah, especially having the Prophet as well as the Tiny with the AC. Even though I didn't really agree with the AC, it still helps them to push towers. If they get the chance, he's gonna like 4-shot the tier 3 towers, and they can get a counter-X really, really fast. So it really depends on how the fights go and how Alliance position themselves at this point, because if they, like you said, if they get picked off, that could be very bad for them.
Well, NoTail actually decided to pick up Boots of Travel. He's got a bunch of sentries on him. He's got the gem, so he definitely doesn't want to play against a PL who can't be seen, which obviously makes sense. And I mean, to be honest, Fnatic are doing a really good job of abusing the map right now, but they could be abusing it a little bit too much. Oh, nice blink out there, actually, from Hani. He was about 2 seconds away from getting caught out by EGM with that smoke, and Trixie kind of just chilling up here doing his own thing. Can teleport bottom and try to do some split pushing, but the thing about this Juggernaut build, too, I really wanted to point this out for S4, is that is like a no-damage build. He has a Manta and a BKB. That hero does not really do that much damage. He's relying pretty much solely on the healing ward. He's relying on the Omni and his spin. He doesn't necessarily do a whole lot of auto-attack damage. Sure, the Manta gives some stats. The BKB gives a little bit of damage, but this is kind of like a I don't want to die build and rely on things like RP, potentially my Phantom Lancer to just carry the fight.
It's more just stay in the fights and try and help out as much as possible, just being annoying. Maybe try and get 2 Blade Furies out in one fight just to be really annoying. So at this point, like you said, not doing a lot of damage and NoTail, it's kind of phase shift and blink out.
Nicely done. That was very close as well. Managed to get himself quite far away, actually. He has the blink and the Forest Staff, so really, really nice reaction time. And both teams still kind of just farming away. There were quite a few kills, actually, during the beginning. You can see in the Golden Experience that Fnatic are doing a better job of abusing the map. Even a lane down. They're pulling ahead in Golden Experience with a lane down. That's actually insane.
It's just having that puck, being able to stay so far up and not getting caught out with the phase shift is just so good for them, because the only lockdown they actually have on the Lions side, they don't have any Orchids or anything. They gotta use RP or kill him in the telekinesis. Because if they don't kill him in the telekinesis, he's gonna get away. So they can just abuse the fact that they have the puck, being able to stay so far out in the lane, and then the Nyx, of course, roaming around. And then you have Trixie.
Oh, S4. Is he actually going to be in trouble? How fast is BKB timing? Not fast enough. Gets stunned out. S4 taking a ton of damage right now. He will be able to Manta and spin, though. I don't think they can finish him. And that is when you need the Hex. That is when you say to yourself, maybe should have made the extra investment for the Hex instead, because that would have definitely been a kill if they had one.
Yeah, another really good pickoff as well. Since pretty much all the lanes are pushed, that could have been just going straight for a fight in mid. S4, I believe, did have a buyback at that point, or he didn't actually, but he might have bought some items once he got back to base, so
Yeah.
not too sure, but it would have been such a good pickoff kill. Just stopping S4 from getting more items at this point, like you said, he's going for such a defensive build that even if he'll sustain in fights, he won't really do too much damage. He'll do a lot of damage and be annoying, but he's not going to do the mass amount of damage that Phantom Lancer is going to do, per se.
Well, Era now has enough money for his Butterfly if he wants to complete it, sitting on top of 5,500 gold, and we already saw that Phantom Lancer has his Butterfly, and Ixu playing that Mag also has a Refresher. So, pretty big team fight now coming out of the side of Alliance, and Era's going to run right into an Omni slashing S4, and that is going to be pretty much a forced buyback. There's no way he's going to be able to stay dead the entire duration. I think that they're either going to take the opportunity to push, especially considering that Aegis is not going to be there anymore. And there's still, of course, a tier 2 standing, but I guess maybe a minute. Maybe he won't have to buy back. That would be ideal, because if he does have to buy back, the next time they fight, that could very easily just be the end of the game.
It feels like he should just send the courier out to the secret shop right now, just to have it there. Because if he doesn't have to buy back, he can just buy the Butterfly straight away. But at this point, if he buys back, like you pointed out, he's probably not going to have enough money, and he's going to be forced to buy back. Ake is going to TP out straight away to just stop the split push from Trixie. And nothing more is going to come from it, except for a very nice pickoff, forced buyback, and a tier 2 tower for Alliance.
Well, Trixie is getting very close to that Hex. He's got 4,400 gold. So if he wants to pick it up now, or I should say in the next few minutes, is pretty much going to be the time. A Hex can be the make or break here. A Hex can isolate Loda, kill him, maybe Ixu, maybe S4, 3 of the high priority targets that Fnatic definitely want to be killing. So I think that once they get that item, they might try to make something else happen. But the rest of the side of Fnatic are kind of just falling behind and far, and we can see that Loda leading the net worth here pretty far now, pretty far ahead. He's above 3,000 right now, ahead of the next highest, and he's still sitting on top of 4,500 gold. So if he wants to buy back, he can always do that. He can try to buy another item. Maybe he wants to get an MKB, maybe he wants to get a crit. Whatever late game choice he decides to make, he can make it soon. So we're going to see 3 members of Fnatic actually inside of Alliance's jungle here, potentially looking for a pick, but there are 4 members right now of Alliance, and Ixu's also going to be making his way over. And it's very difficult, actually, to make anything happen for either side. But at the same time, I kind of like the fact that Fnatic did that because, again, they're still able to have Trixie basically wherever they want. They can put him in the bottom lane, they can split push, and right now, what are Alliance doing? They're sitting basically as 5 inside of their own jungle with not even full creeps to camp or to farm.
Yeah, it feels like they're just waiting for another Aegis to come up and try and get that load up, pushing with his Lucians, of course, in the lane, but we're going to go for another smoke, see if they can get a pickoff. Might just go for a smoke, pickoff into Roche, which would be really, really good for them, because that should be the throne for them if they want to try and go for that. But right now, Fnatic is, we pointed it out earlier, they're just so good at abusing the map, and Trixie just split pushing, and they're going to be able to scout out the smoke.
Oh, no tail. Blinks away in the Cloak of Night. EGM goes forward, though. Very nice phase shift by No Tail. Actually stopped the telekinesis animation right there. So everyone pretty much gets away scotch-free. And we can see Trixie is in his opponent's jungle once again. Not going to be able to split push that well, though. That's the thing. He's up to 6,000 gold, by the way. Is he going to go Rapier? Is that going to be his choice? Does he think that he needs that much damage to be able to take the next fight? I mean, I got to throw it out there. Whenever somebody's sitting on top of 6,000 gold and then somebody buys a Rapier, you have to at least make it known that it is possible. Alliance going to be spotting Roshan spawning here. Right now, Loda secures his Manta style, and he also probably has enough for buyback as well on top of this. And this is probably, I think this is cheese, isn't it?
It should be cheese,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I think it is cheese.
And Era actually went for a crit on his Tiny, and he's up to 3.6k gold, so he can finish off a Daedalus if he wants to, and then go for a Butterfly after that. But just getting the Talisman to get some extra evasion up, but Aegis going the way of Alliance, of course, and then the She's going the way of S4. Loda picking up that Aegis, of course. So at this point, they should just be able to push out top if they want to, since that's the lane that's pushed in the furthest. And they got the mega creeps, or the Rax creeps, of course, in the mid lane. Just go S5 for top, go for the tier 2, and then go for base would be a very good decision for them.
Especially with that Manta done now on Loda, that's going to be some serious problems, because sometimes you can get unlucky with your juxtapose, you can not get as many illusions as you would like, but when you have a Manta, it's like an instant army. So it makes it very difficult for Fnatic to fight against that. So I would assume, I'm kind of on the same page as you, Alliance probably going to start to force the pace right here and put Fnatic on the back foot. Already are kind of on the back foot. And I like the pickup of the Crystallis by Era, just because, I mean, what is a BKB really going to do for him right now? He could still get RP'd. He could still just get disintegrated, basically, by Loda and his Image army, regardless of whether or not he has the BKB. So going for the crit, it's kind of hoping for a couple of lucky crits, but at the same time, if he gets them, then the fight can actually turn.
Yeah, the crit damage is just so massive on a Tiny, especially if you finish off the Daedalus. He's going to hit for between 1200 and 1400 with just crits, and if he can get that, he's going to pretty much like one-shot the supports in the back from the cleave, or two-shot at least, so it's going to be very good for him. And then of course he got the extra evasion, and Loda not going for an MKB straight away, like you pointed out, going for that Yasha instead to be able to get his Image army up a bit faster.
And Trixie managed to secure himself a Hex, actually before Alliance are able to push into the next tier 3, so that's a pretty big deal too. And he actually has enough money for buyback, so the next fight, I mean, he hits pretty hard, he hits for over 300, and Puck can actually buy back for the next fight. And Keeper of the Light. Actually, pretty much everyone can, except for one support from each team. The Rubik and the Nyx are the only two who can't buy out. The one difference is that since Alliance are pushing with the Keeper of the Light, buying back actually matters here, because they can pull somebody back in if they manage to mess it up the first time. They're going to go ahead and Lance Fly. He's going to be forced to Ghost Scepter, using the Illuminate to basically zone out the rest of Fnatic. And just look at how fast Honey is dying. He's forced to use his Force Staff away from the enemy team just because of how deadly those images are. The Rax is pretty much already exposed. Trixie doing some backdooring at the top tier 3. In the meantime, S4 going to get comboed here. He does have that cheese though, and a BKB still up. Here comes No Tail with the silence and the 3-man coil. Ixu might be in some trouble. Cheese pop by S4. Era currently being forced back. Trixie actually teleports back to the base to try to fight, but it might be a little bit too late. 3-man RP coming out of Ixu, gets stunned mid-skewer, but I don't think it matters. I think this is pretty much the end. The RP is used. Actually not again. He refreshes, but doesn't get a chance to use it. And buybacks on the side of Fnatic, but they do lose their bottom set of racks. Very nice RP coming out of Ixu, and overall I think they just waited a little bit too long.
Yeah, at this point they've lost 2 racks. Couldn't get the counter racks up in top, and keep on fighting.
EGM just gets evaporated. Trixie managed to get the Shadow Blade off before he drops to Loda, but Ake once again pulling people back into fights. This time it's going to be Ixu. They have the healing ward. The only person not in the base of Fnatic at the moment is going to be EGM, who's just walking his way across the map, because he, unfortunately, didn't get lucky enough as to fly the Keeper of the Light airline. So, Fnatic, another RP, going to be used here by Ixu. Of course, that refresher RP didn't go off the second time. Trixie and Fly taking a significant amount of damage here. Silence is going to go off on Ixu along with the Light Strike Array, and Fnatic, they just tap out. They're like, yep, we're 2 racks down against the PL. Probably not going to be able to come back with their throne exposed.
Yeah, didn't manage, like I pointed out, didn't manage to get the counter racks with Trixie, just TPing back into the base, trying to defend it instead, and Alliance was just too strong at that point.
Yeah.
It was just really hard for them to actually get the kills they needed on the side of Fnatic. So just very well played by Alliance, keeping the game very passive and stopping Fnatic from putting pressure so they could actually get the farm up on the PO and get him really, really strong.
I felt like at the beginning of this game, we had a chance to watch Fnatic in their tri-lane. Trixie teleported to the bottom lane. They kill all 3 of Alliance tri-lane. That kind of start, that is like the perfect start. That is a start that you say, okay, our aggressive, like, 6-nuke tri-lane just got 3 kills. We give our mid first blood and an additional kill on top of that. He starts off with basically a Bassi and Shreds, works his way into the Midas, of course. But that game, I mean, where was the pressure? Like, where was the pressure from Fnatic? They never took fights.
Yeah, they kind of needed the Puck as well as the Nature's Prophets just find kills. And Honey didn't actually hit level 6 too late either on the Nyx, so he could have just tried and roam around, but they were just playing it really passive, trying to get the Tiny as farmed as Phantom Lancer, but NoTidehunter or Alliance was just creating so much room for the Phantom Lancer, just putting pressure on other lanes, not really forcing fights, just putting a bit of pressure, getting it pushed against the tower, forcing Fnatic to come with 4 players. It's just like,
well,
overall really well played.
Yeah, that ties the series up 1-1, and of course we have the rest of the panel here joining us once again, and Bruno the Statman and Scriff, the Observer, who I can't praise anymore because he missed like 3 kills that game. It seems like whenever I say you do good, you just inherently do bad the next time. What's up with that?
I don't know.
Reverse psychology. Focus, man. Focus.
Yeah.
Say I'm bad, because then I will focus more. Prove you wrong.
I can't do that to you,
Actually, a
Scriff.
good idea. I found something interesting in this game, which, I mean, ties up to what you were talking about before. How many times have we seen teams actually saying, okay, we're going to get free farm on your carry, we're not going to contest that, we're just trying to, like, yeah, might put 1 hero, maybe just nothing. And in exchange, we'll try to get something on our carry because we think that our late game is better than yours. And I think in this case, Fnatic, what they did made sense. Tiny is really devastating if he gets the proper items, if he gets the proper things going, not only because he can clip through the Phantom Lancer's illusions, not only because he deals an insane ton of damage to even the supports that might be behind you, but also because if you get just one good fight, he pushes faster than anyone in the game.
Yeah.
So it was a bit weird for me to see Fnatic saying, okay, we're going to actually contest that Phantom Lancer. We put the puck in there. And actually the puck was doing quite a good job at the beginning.
Yep.
Because he was getting more last hits than the PL.
Courier, double courier as well.
yeah.
Double crowing.
So I was like, okay, these guys are definitely... Of course, their main trialing was the bottom one, where they were just trying to get things happening against the Juggernaut, and they did.
Yep.
But they were like, yeah, you know, we're actually trying to make something happen against the Phantom Lancer. And it worked. So things were looking pretty good for Fnatic. And the problem was that eventually it fell down. It kind of reminded me of Game 1. It's like Alliance in Game 1. They didn't have the bad lanes. They didn't have the bad draft. Their game plan made sense.
Yeah.
But just it all came out to execution. And a couple of team fights, few clutch Roshan's taken. And suddenly it all starts snowballing towards Alliance. But the important thing is that it did not snowball like in this. You see when these matches are 20k goal ahead.
Yeah.
Snowballed, but at the same time they kept up with the goal, they kept up with the experience. So a pretty weird match.
Even one lane set of racks down, they kept growing in gold for a while.
Exactly.
So it was like...
So,
Yeah.
I mean, kind of a
Crazy.
weird match. A match that could have gone either way.
Yep.
I think 27 minutes into the game they were equaling kills. And, I mean, here comes to show what these two teams are. Really, these two very, very strong teams. These were not stomps by any means.
Nope.
No, neither of these games. And they clearly know each other, so they have solid game plans, and it all comes to execution.
Yep.
So now we're heading towards Game 3.
Yep.
And I hope we can see more of this, like a game that's decided on who has the better skill and not who picked the better heroes.
Yeah.
Right?
Decision making. And
Decision
not
making.
just like, oh, we got Wisp CK,
Yeah.
Crush Min,
Exactly.
or something like that.
So that's our analysis of the game
Yeah.
so far. And we go back to you, Andy.
Thank you.
Take us away.
Thank you. We're going to take you guys away here for just a short break. Of course, we still do have one game to play in the semifinals. And make sure you guys also tune in for the rest of the semis today and, of course, the grand finals that we don't actually know any teams that are playing in them yet. But, of course, the next semifinals is going to be Team Liquid taking on Dignitas after the next game of this. So we'll be right back, guys, with more Dota... Wait for it. Dreamhack Dota 2 Invitationals, Game 3 between Fnatic and Alliance. Stay tuned.